The dew was already gone by the time the sun touched the barn roof. But it wasn't the sun that little Bunny was watching. It was the light in the window of the old dairy shed. The one that only glowed when the sky turned from blue to violet. People think farms are quietest at night. They believe that when the chickens roost and the cows lie down in the hay, the only sound left is the wind moving through the dry grass. But they have never visited the cafe that opens when the sun goes down. They have never stood with little Bunny, hidden behind the tall fennel, watching the light bloom. The official story of Green Meadow Farm was this: that every creature worked by the same sun and slept by the same moon. Cows grazed in the morning. Chickens pecked at midday. The farmer hung his hat on the hook at dusk, and by the time the stars appeared, the farm was dark and still. But little Bunny knew better. He had been sitting under the blackberry bush for 3 evenings now, his whiskers barely twitching. He had watched the owl leave her hollow. He had counted the crickets one by one, and on the 3rd evening, he saw it. A single candle flame moving behind the dusty window of the old dairy shed. If you have ever noticed something small that didn't belong, a light where there should be darkness, a sound where there should be silence, you know the feeling that ran through little Bunny's fur. Not fear, not danger, curiosity, the kind that presses you forward one paw at a time because you need to know. The moon was rising by the time he reached the dairy shed door. It was not locked. It had not been locked in years. Not since old Farmer Thomas stopped milking the last Jersey cow. The handle was cold. The wood of the door was dry and splintered against his paw. He pushed. Inside, the smell was not of rust and dust. It was of warm milk, of fresh hay, of something sweet, like honey that had been heated gently over a low fire. A single candle sat on a wooden crate, and beside the candle, on a folded cloth, lay a small piece of cheese, still soft, still warm, as if it had just been made that moment. Little Bunny looked around the room. There were no footprints, no other creatures, no sign that anyone had been here at all. But the cheese was real. He touched it with the tip of his nose. It smelled of grass and clover, and the morning sun that had already set 2 hours ago. He did not eat it. Not yet. He sat down on the cool stone floor, his paws folded in front of him, and waited. If you have ever trusted that something would happen again, the same thing, at the same time, in the same place, you understand why little Bunny returned to the dairy shed the next evening. He came when the first star appeared. He sat in the same spot, and he watched. This time the candle was already lit. The cheese was already on the cloth. But someone else was there. A small mouse, no bigger than little Bunny's ear, was standing on her hind legs at the edge of the crate. Her fur was grey, the colour of old rain. She held a tiny spoon in her paw. "You found me," she said. Little Bunny had never heard a mouse speak before.
The moon is lovely
but he was
tonight,
not surprised.
isn't it? Even from
On a
down
farm where the
here in
wind
shed.
told stories and the soil kept secrets, it did not seem strange that a mouse could use words. "I found the
Go ahead,
cheese,"
try a bite.
little
It's
Bunny
quite
said.
special.
The mouse nodded.
Are
"I
you
made
sure
it
it's all right?
from the milk of the last cow that still gives milk at night. Her name is Fern. She only lets herself be milked after the moon is up. Little Bunny had never heard of Fern. He had walked past the cow shed 100 times and never noticed one cow who chose the night over the day. But now he remembered something. A shadow in the corner of the barn. A pair of dark eyes that stayed open when all the others closed.
If you scoop it right here with
Why?
the spoon. Oh, really?
Little Bunny asked.
What happens then?
The mouse put down the spoon. Because someone needs to keep the night kitchen running. The farm sleeps, but the soil never rests. The roots keep drinking. The mushrooms keep spreading. And some of us, we keep working while the others dream. She cut a small piece of cheese with the spoon and offered it to Little Bunny. He took it. It was soft on his tongue, sweet, with a taste that made him think of clover fields in June and rain that smelled of green. Every night, the mouse said, Fern gives her milk. I make the cheese. And the farmer's daughter leaves a candle by the window before she goes to bed. Not because she knows we are here, but because she believes that something good happens in the dark. That is the secret the mouse shared. The dark is not empty. It holds kindness and work and a warm candle. If you want to follow Little Bunny into the night kitchen again, subscribe. The door is never locked for those who listen. And tell us in the comments, what is one good thing you believe happens in the dark? The mouse would like to know. This was the crack in the official story. The farm did not stop when the sun went down. It changed shape. It became softer. It became a place where creatures who were small and patient and quiet could make something beautiful with the hours that nobody watched. If you have ever woken in the middle of the night and felt that the world was different, slower, deeper, more honest, you know what Little Bunny learned in that dairy shed. The darkness is not empty. It is not still. It hums with a different kind of work. The mouse showed him how she pressed the curds into a cloth, how she left them to rest on the stone floor, how the cellar kept them cool through the warmest nights. She showed him the tiny jars where she stored herbs from the garden. Thyme, rosemary, a leaf she called evening mint that only grew in the shadow of the bell tower. Little Bunny stayed until the candle burned down to a stump. Then the mouse blew it out. The room went dark. Tomorrow, she said, if you come, I will show you where the honey comes from. And Little Bunny promised he would. He walked home through the farm in the deep night. The moon was high. The stars were close. He passed the cow shed and saw, through the crack in the door, one pair of eyes looking back at him. Fern. The cow who gave milk when no one was watching. Little Bunny stopped and bowed his head. He did not know if cows understood bowing, but it felt right. Fern blinked slowly, and then she lowered her head too. Little Bunny bowed and Fern bowed back. That is how the night creatures say yes. Not with words, but with a lowering of the head. If you want to be part of the quiet work that happens while the world dreams, subscribe. There is always room beside the candle. Tell us in the comments, what would you help make in the night kitchen? Cheese? Honey? Or something else? The spoon is waiting. Back in his nest of hay, curled beside the chicken coop where the chickens murmured in their sleep, Little Bunny closed his eyes. The taste of the cheese was still on his tongue. The warmth of the candle was still in his fur, and he knew that the farm he had lived on his whole life was not the farm he had seen tonight. There was another farm beneath it, a farm that only showed itself when the shadows grew long, and the night creatures woke, and he had been invited in. If you have ever found a secret place, a corner of the garden you thought you knew, a path in the woods that led somewhere new, you know the gift that was given to Little Bunny that night. He had been trusted with a secret, not a secret that would harm anyone, a secret that made the world feel bigger, kinder, more full of light than he had ever known. The mouse had not told him to keep quiet. She had not made him promise. She had simply shown him the cheese, the milk, the candle, and trusted that he would understand. And he did. The next evening, Little Bunny arrived before the candle was lit. He sat in the dark of the dairy shed and waited. He could hear the mouse moving somewhere below the floorboards, humming a tune that he had never heard before. The sound was low and soft, like wind through a pipe. It did not feel eerie. It felt like a lullaby for the floor itself. The mouse came up through a crack beside the crate, dusting her paws. "You are early,"
Do you really
she
think
said.
it will work?
"I wanted to help,"
Promise. It
Little Bunny
always
said.
does.
The mouse studied him. Her eyes were black and bright, like wet stones. "Help with what?" "With anything. The candle, the cheese, the milk. I can carry jars. I can clean the cloth. I can sit and be quiet if that is what you need." The mouse did not answer at first. She walked to the candle and lit it with a match that was taller than she was. The flame rose. The room filled with soft light. "Everyone wants to see the secret," the mouse said. "Very few want to be part of it." Little Bunny understood. "I am not asking to see," he said. "I am asking to stay." The mouse's whiskers twitched. She turned her back to him and walked toward a small pot that sat on a brick at the edge of the crate. "Then carry this," she said. And she handed him the spoon. The spoon was warm, as if it had been held by someone else just moments ago. Little Bunny wrapped his paw around the handle. It was an old spoon, carved from wood, worn smooth by years of stirring. The mouse pointed to the pot. Inside, a thick golden liquid caught the candlelight. Honey. Not from a jar bought at market, honey that had been gathered from the hives at the edge of the meadow, where the bees worked through the warm afternoons storing sweetness for winter. Little Bunny stirred. The honey moved slowly, thick and heavy, like liquid amber. The mouse added a pinch of dried lavender from a small pouch at her side. She stirred with him, their paws touching over the edge of the pot. They worked in silence. The candle flickered. Outside, the crickets sang their slow, steady song. Inside, the honey began to smell of flowers and earth, and the quiet work of creatures who loved what they did. When the honey was ready, the mouse poured it into a small clay pot and sealed it with wax. She placed it beside the cheese on the folded cloth. "For the morning,"
Cheese is good tonight.
she said,
You should have some before bed.
"for whoever wakes first and needs
It was
something
a long
sweet."
journey.
Little Bunny looked at the cheese and the honey side by side. Two small offerings. Two things that did not exist the night before, and he had helped make them. The mouse climbed onto the crate and sat beside the candle. Her legs dangled over the edge. She looked tired, but she also looked satisfied, the way a creature looks when the work is done and the night is still young.
Just a little piece of that cheese.
You should sleep,
You know I
she said.
can't, dear. We must
Little
be
Bunny
going
shook his head.
soon.
Not yet. The mouse smiled. It was a small smile, barely a movement of her whiskers, but it was real. And stay a little longer, she said. And he did. Little Bunny stayed. That is the gift of the night kitchen. Not the cheese or the honey, but the staying, the sitting together as the candle burns down. If you want to stay with us for more stories like this, subscribe. Each night, a new light flickers on, and you are invited. In the comments, share one word that describes how this story felt to you. Maybe warm, maybe secret, maybe like a bow between friends. The candle burned down. The moon moved across the sky. The mouse told him about the bees, how they found the lavender, how they carried it back to the hive in tiny baskets on their legs. She told him about Fern, the night cow, who had been born on a winter solstice and never liked sunlight. She told him about the roots that grew at night, how they drank the rain and pushed deeper into the soil while the farm
I'm
slept.
telling you, I saw it with my own
Little
eyes.
Bunny listened.
The biggest piece of cheese I've ever seen.
He did not ask
right next to the
questions.
glowing jar.
To truly
He did
hear
not
the
interrupt.
world, we
He
must
simply
first
sat and
quiet
received the
ourselves,
gift of her words
just
like
as the
soil
rain
receiving
softens
rain.
the earth.
When the candle reached its final inch, the mouse stood up. "The light is dying," she said. Little Bunny stood too. He touched the cheese one more time. He touched the honey one more time. He did not need to taste them again. He already knew what they tasted like. They tasted like night work, like patience, like the secret kindness of small creatures. He walked to the door and pushed it open. The night air was cool and clean. The stars had shifted. The farm was still. He turned back to look at the mouse. She stood in the doorway of the dairy shed, a small grey shadow against the darkness. "Will you come tomorrow?" she asked. Little Bunny did not answer with words. He bowed his head, the same way he had bowed to Fern. The mouse bowed back, and that was enough. Little Bunny walked home through the sleeping farm. The dew was forming again on the grass, cool and silver. The chickens stirred in their coop, murmuring in their dreams. The moon was low, ready to hand the sky back to the sun. He reached his nest of hay and curled into it. The taste of cheese was gone from his tongue, but the warmth of the candle was still in his fur, and the feeling of the spoon in his paw was still pressed into his memory, the way the mouse pressed her cheese into the cloth. As the first light touched the barn roof, Little Bunny closed his eyes. He was not thinking of the next night, or the honey, or the mouse, or Fern. He was thinking of the spoon, how it had been made for a hand smaller than his, how it had been used 1,000 times before tonight, how it would be used again tomorrow and the night after, by creatures who kept the night kitchen running while the world dreamed. And he fell asleep, holding that thought like a seed in his heart.